Good afternoon. My name is Juan Thomas, and I have the honor of serving as the 2022-23 chair of the ABA Civil Rights and Social Justice section. Welcome to our weekly chair chat, hosted by our section to discuss the important civil rights and social justice issues around the country and throughout the globe. Today, I'm honored to have with us the president of the Magnolia Bar Association in Mississippi, Ms. Monica McNeely, and Mr. Milton Stafford, who's a 40-year resident of Jackson, Mississippi. They are with us today to discuss the water crisis in Jackson and the ongoing problems regarding the water crisis that's affected over 150,000 people in the city of Jackson, Mississippi, and then hopefully help us answer the question, what can we do as lawyers and the ABA Civil Rights and Social Justice section to help respond to this crisis and help find a solution to deal with this issue, not only in Jackson, but in other places around the country, for example, in Flint, Michigan, where this also was a problem. And so today I want to welcome Monica McNeely, who I said is the president of the Magnolia Bar Association. She's an associate at Conway & Associates in Gulfport, Mississippi, where her practice primarily includes personal injury, Social Security disability, and workers' compensation. She is a graduate of Grambling State University and also Howard University School of Law, and she's licensed to practice in the state of Mississippi and Pennsylvania. And if I also may just put on a little levity hat, she's a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. And so I'm also proud to say that because our other guest, Mr. Stafford, is wearing a sweater that I'm very proud that he's wearing. I did not tell him to wear it, but he and I are both proud members of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So welcome, Monica, Madam President, and Milton, my brother, glad to have you both. I want to start by asking Monica, Madam President, a question regarding the Magnolia Bar Association. Could you just share with us briefly the history of the Magnolia Bar Association, its mission, and the work you're currently doing in the state of Mississippi?
Yes, good afternoon, Juan. The Magnolia Bar Association was founded in 1955. At the time, Black applicants for admission to the Mississippi State Bar had to actually take the bar exam, where you had individuals who were graduating from Mississippi Law School able to be admitted without an actual exam. In addition to that, a lot of Black attorneys had to attend law school outside of the state of Mississippi. So based upon these conditions and hardships that were endured by the Black lawyers, the Magnolia Bar Association was formed. As part of the mission of the Magnolia Bar Association, we have about 7 or 8 components to our mission. Most of those deal with our providing resources for the betterment of the society and or for the practice of law. But I will highlight a few of those which I think are relevant regarding the water crisis in Jackson. And so those components are the Magnolia Bar mission is to facilitate the administration of justice, to promote reform in the law, to provide an agency to articulate the various problems confronting Blacks and other minorities, and to assure that justice prevails in the state of Mississippi. Currently today, we have approximately 150 members that belong to the Magnolia Bar.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you highlighted the work you're doing around the water crisis there. Could you share with us, and maybe Milton, you could also add an answer to this question, what is the historic origins of this crisis? It's my understanding from what I've read, this has been an issue for over 50 years in Jackson, and is involved not only the current present day issue, but historically around lack of funding for infrastructure and policy that has impacted the residents of Jackson. And so could you just kind of share, Monica or Milton, the origins of this and your perspective as residents of the state Of course, Milton, you as a resident of Jackson.
Monica, you want to go first?
Oh, I will. So I am actually a resident of the coast. I reside in Gulfport, Mississippi, which is approximately 160 miles south of Jackson. So a lot of the issue regarding the water crisis, as far as the historical aspect, I am just becoming aware of, along with the rest of the nation. I do make frequent trips to Jackson for work, and or business of the Magnolia Bar Association. So I was slightly familiar with some of the boil water notices, but I had not, I'm sorry, I did not know that the issue was something that has been occurring for quite a few decades, as I am now coming to learn since the situation garnered national attention last week. But it is my understanding, as you said, Juan, that, you know, the residents have dealt with several service disruptions over the years, recurring boil water advisories, even concerns of contamination, and that this is mainly due to failure to upgrade the water system. But I will defer to Mr. Milton, who is actually a resident and who can probably provide a little bit more insight as a resident of Jackson.
Thanks, Monica. Once again, Juan, thanks for having me. I refuse to get into the weeds of exactly what's going on. I do know that boil water notices are nothing new to the residents and the citizens of Jackson. This has been going on probably about the last 20, 25 years. That's been noticeable. I'm gonna step out on a limb and say we probably average at least 4 or 5 boil water notices in a year in the past. And Juan, you hit that the infrastructure is just bad. And we know that anytime the root of any problem is bad, and anytime the root of any problem does not get taken care of, eventually the tree is going to fall. And I just think that's where we are now. Not to be pointing fingers or throwing anybody under the bus as to what's going on. It's just been an ongoing problem that administrations have been having. And I guess the key thing that we need to look at now, which I'm sure we'll get into the question now, is what can be done. Of course, I don't have all the answers, because if I had the answers, I would be one of the first ones down trying to help get it solved. But I do know there is an answer. So we've got to figure out what's going on. But it's been a long, ongoing situation. Like I said, once again, boiling water to the residents of Jackson is nothing. Making sure you have water on stock is nothing new to the residents of Jackson. Complete water pressure, no water pressure, and no water has become a frequent thing of the past. I would go on a limb and say probably over the past 5 years, but it's basically from the infrastructure, it's basically from the long wear and tear, the old age of all the equipment that takes to make up and to run an effective water system.
Well, I appreciate both of you being politically correct in not wanting to point fingers. But from what I've read, the city of Jackson is 80% African-American. I read an article that stated that your mayor asked for $47 million from the government, federal and state government, to help fix the infrastructure, and particularly a particular water plant in the city. And he was only given $3 million. And so it looks to those of us from the outside that there is a systemic neglect in Jackson for the need to fix this problem. And it begs the question, if this was a different community with different residents whose skin was not kissed by nature's sun, would there be a different response? And so I'm wondering if either of you could speak to that. And what are your thoughts around the lack of funding that local leaders who live in the community are calling on, that's not being provided to them?
One, there again, I don't want to get into the weeds of the money situation, because we don't know, but there have been different reports, different articles saying different things, different people have said different things about the situation with the money. I can allude to, since 1987, we've had, and I can't call these names because there's public record, we've had Harvey Johnson as mayor, the first African-American mayor. We had Frank Milton. as an interim, because Mr. Milton died in office, we had Les McLemore. Harvey Johnson came back again. Then we had the elder Chuckway Lumumba, and then we had Charles Tillman that came in as an interim. Then we had Tony Yarbrough to come in, and now we have Chuckway and Troy Lumumba, who's the son of Chuckway Lumumba. And so that's 25 years of Black administration. So I'm not saying that that's the problem. I'm just saying that I think that if the concern is there about the African American community, we've had the people in place to help out and take care on a city level. I'm not saying on the state level, but on the city level, we had those there. So I don't know, and I hate to say it, I don't know actually how the money was funded or what's going on, but I just think from the past 25 years, something could have been done at some point in time about this, because from my understanding, they knew there was a problem, and they knew there was a problem that was coming.
Madam President, you want to add anything?
Yes, so it's similar to Mr. Milton, of course. I do not, want to get down in the weeds of the actual politics. However, now that it has been brought to national attention, I am hoping that from the federal government down to the state level, down to the local level, that all three entities are going to get on one accord regarding addressing this issue. Because as you have stated, the facts are the facts. So we cannot discount the fact that similar to Flint, Michigan, the city of Jackson, Mississippi has basically a similar composition of African Americans and individuals living in poverty. So it is just my hope that now that it has gained national attention, being mindful of the fact that a similar situation occurred last year, I think it was February during the winter storms, that the city was left without water, or I'm sorry, maybe not the entire city, but areas of the city were affected and left without water for approximately a month or so. I'm just hoping that these conversations that the ABA is having, I have been in on conference calls with the National Bar Association as well. And so it seems that the nation as a whole is focusing on what's going on, and hopefully these conversations and all of this attention will cause those who are in power to do what is necessary and what is right for the citizens of the city of Jackson.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Monica, because I wanted to really help our audience and those who will be listening to this conversation think about, in new or creative ways, how can we be helpful? What do you want lawyers specifically, or just people generally to know about this crisis? And what can we do to specifically be helpful?
One, I think that is a very good question. I know that there are several water collection efforts, like right here along the coast of Mississippi. About 9 or 10 of our cities along the coast have initiated an effort called One Coast, One Recovery. They are collecting bottled water through September the 13th to ship to Jackson. Several other nonprofit grassroots organizations here along the coast have also done the same. And it is my understanding that water is actually being delivered to Jackson on a daily. However, I think the bigger picture is coming up with long-term solutions.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, I don't necessarily know what those are, but I'm hoping that, conversations are being had, teams are being put in place to address this, because God forbid, next week there's a crisis in a different part of the city, and then the country will start focusing their attention on that. Right. So I think the main thing is not just simply focusing on what short-term efforts or relief we can provide to the city of Jackson, but that making sure as lawyers that we are advocating for the citizens of Jackson beyond this particular, crisis that occurred last week, making sure that we are at the table when policies are being put in place, making sure that we are holding government officials accountable for what they do and do not do to the, I'm sorry, for what they do and do not to allocate the appropriate resources for all the citizens, be it their local government officials, state government officials, and the federal government as well.
Thank you for sharing that. We will definitely be reminding people in our section and in the ABA the important need to hold our elected officials accountable and to secure the funding that seems to be needed in communities like Jackson to fix infrastructure, to repair needed water plants so that people can maintain a healthy quality of life. Which brings me to my next question to Milton. Could you kind of share with our audience how has this impacted you personally or your family? What has this been like? Could you kind of contextualize this so we kind of, a lot of us take water for granted, right? We brush our teeth, we take showers every day, we wash the dishes, but what has it been like to live with this crisis on a day-to-day basis personally?
My immediate family has been very blessed. We've lost pressure. We lost pressure for about 5-6 hours the first day, and when I lost pressure, we was almost at zero, but we were able to. I make a little joke. It took me about an hour and a half to fill up a gallon milk carton full of water to do it. But
Wow.
We lost pressure. But it's very effective. It's stressful, worrying about people, and we've been grateful, and I'm grateful for, as she said and stated, about the contribution that have been given to us. But it's stressful, worried about other people. At my church, we've been having to, we started Thursday passing out water, and I don't think my deacon brothers and I don't think we got 5 hours worth of sleep from Thursday up until Sunday, just passing out water and doing that. So it's on that situation. But there are some families that are in a dire strait. I mean, they have no complete water. There are elderlies that are there that you have to worry about, and there are families that are in bad shape. The outpour has been coming along with the water, but there are other things that are in need. For example, paper products, because you have to do, I mean, I prefer paper plates so you won't have to use water to wash your dishes and stuff like that with those come. But it's been very effective. And on top of the situation without the water, it's just stressful because, like you said, you take water, we take it for granted that we have it, and it trickles downhill. You don't have any water, of course, your kids can't take a bath. That means your kids can't go to school. That means that since they can't go to school, in some parent situations, that means they can't go to work. Some places are not open for them to get adequate food for that. When they go to restaurants, or in restaurants, they have to use water. They use water for more than just serving. They use water for cooking, for washing dishes, for et cetera and et cetera. So it's a tough situation. Like I say, because you take it for granted, it really is stressful. I mean, I don't recall a time in my life, and I'm 54 years old, that I've ever just had to be without water unless my bill wasn't paid. but that's a different situation. But it's just stressful, and you have to feel for people. You're constantly thinking about how is Miss Jones, how is Miss Susie, man, how are y'all doing? I have received calls from all across the nation, from fraternity brothers to former co-workers, just checking and see how we doing, and just sitting there having to vent with them, to explain to them that we have no water, and it's stressful.
Right.
Go
ahead, Monica.
I'm sorry, and if I may add, I really appreciate the fact that Mr. Milton brought up, what it is in addition to the water that the citizens of Jackson may be in need of. Because of course, I never thought about that. You're thinking, or a lot of the organizations are focusing strictly on water because that is the immediate need. So maybe some type of community assessment to say, okay, we know like this water problem is not going to be rectified overnight. However, when it does occur, when there are boil water notices, or when the water pressure is low, what is it that the citizens of Jackson need in addition to water? so that those of us across the state, across the country that are trying to, help with relief efforts will be more knowledgeable. So maybe someone can spearhead some type of community assessment to make sure that, we are providing the necessary relief and not just what we think the citizens of Jackson need.
And Monica, I'm not going to take all the credit for that, but as I was thinking today, I was thinking beyond the water. So it took me a while to come with that one. But yeah, and that is so true. Like I say, the paper products, it keeps you from having to wash the dishes.
Right.
Just the simple things like Lysol wipes that keep you having to run water up under your hands to wipe your hands off. If you're from the coast, y'all eating crawfish, you probably want to give a little water to clean your hands off, but you can take the Lysol wipes and do that. There are lots of things that they need. And right now, one thing you might want to consider, we need containers. I mean, people need containers. You have to go and scrub and get paint buckets and get milk jugs and get stuff just to put non-potable water in to flush a commode. So there are a lot of different needs that come along with water.
Yes,
Is
sir.
there, go ahead, Monica.
Oh no, I was just saying, yes, sir. Like, I mean, I am making a mental note of that. Like I said, I am working in partnership with the few entities. I'm sorry, I'm saying but the Magnolia Bar. And so I've been on, conference calls with other organizations. And so that is very good information for me to be able to take back to those businesses that are trying to provide relief efforts.
Well, let me just say to both of you that our section, the ABA Civil Rights and Social Justice section, is committed to being a partner and an ally to the work that needs to be done in this space. And so if there's information that we can share with our members, links to websites or ways that we can contribute to these efforts, I would just ask that you share that with us so that we can share that with our members, because this is not only a personal crisis for Milton and the residents of Jackson, it's also an economic justice issue. And it's also an environmental justice issue. And so our section is concerned about these issues, one, to fix the immediate problem, but also the systemic problem that we've talked about this afternoon. And so as we conclude, I just want to ask both of you, what's the one thing that you really want for those of us who aren't there with you to take away and to share with our colleagues and in our networks about this water crisis in Jackson? Either one of you can go first.
Oh, okay. I just want everybody to be just, first of all, be mindful of what you take for granted and understand that stuff happens, but I also want for us to understand that it's I look at this situation kind of like when I was a young boy cooking toast. When I just put my toast, I would put it in the oven and I'd turn it on bake and let it get just a little bit crispy. And then while it's baking, I would turn it to broil. And then after I turned to broil, if I forgot it was on broil for about a minute, it would eventually burn. Then I would catch myself scraping the burn off the toast because I couldn't throw it away because we didn't have but one or two more slices of bread my brother and sister had to eat. So this problem has been baking. This problem has come to a broil. And now this problem has burned. And to prevent this from happening in the future, I think people just need to, and especially administrators, people that are in charge, they just need to look at the future of the citizens, of the people that they are serving, take into consideration what's going to come around about, especially for our elders, our widows. We have to learn that we cannot put ourselves in a position by letting toast burn. And that's what has happened in this water situation here in Jackson, Mississippi, in my personal opinion. I'm not the smartest. I don't have all the solutions, but I do know if I throw one rock away a day, I'll eventually throw the pile eventually come to a small pile.
Thank you for that, Milton. Monica?
Yes, sir. And to that, I would add, just for me, growing up, and not even just growing up as a young lady here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but even when I was attending Howard University School of Law, I mean, it was constantly etched in my mind the words of Charles Hamilton Houston, that a lawyer is either a social engineer or a parasite on society. And so for me, just doing whatever it is that I can in any shape, form, or fashion, be it small or big, to make a positive change in my community. So I just encourage, everyone to be a part of the solution, because if you're not a part of the solution, then 9 times out of 10, you're either complicit in the problem. And so I just want to encourage everyone, especially all the lawyers, or even if you're not a lawyer, just anyone, like I said, because you never know when the next crisis may be the community that you reside in that may need assistance, and you will want your other communities in your state or the nation at large, to provide those relief efforts to you. So I just encourage everyone to do something, to help assist in these efforts.
And Juan, before we go, I would be ashamed of myself if I didn't do this. I want to thank the nation for stepping in and helping out. And I do mean in this country. We've had, the city of Jackson had people from all across the country distributing water, trying to help out, calling to assist. So I just personally want to thank, as a resident and as a citizen of Jackson, Mississippi, I want to personally say thank you, and thank you.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for both of you coming on today. And Monica, I want to echo the words you quoted from Charles Hamilton Houston. We are committed to being social engineers, and how he inspired and mentored people like Thurgood Marshall and lawyers who came out of Mississippi like Marion Wright Edelman. We are committed to being that conscious of our profession and being social engineers. And so we plan to do all what we can to promote ways to help the residents of Jackson, but also as lawyers and people engaged in public policy, to speak to our elected officials, to fund what's needed to fix the ongoing systemic problems around infrastructure. It's no secret, we all know the challenges that Mississippi has had with respect to poverty. And this is an economic justice issue and an environmental justice issue. And all of us need and deserve to live in a safe and clean environment and have safe and healthy water. And so thank you both for your time today.
Thank you.
We appreciate your service to the community. And we look forward to working with you in the future to address this problem that affects too many people in the great city and state of Jackson, Mississippi. Thank you both.
Yes, and thank you, Juan, for providing a platform for us to be able to speak about the water crisis that is occurring in Jackson.
You're welcome.